Western Jin Dynasty 265316 was one of the brief yet tumultuous periods in Chinese history, marking the transition from the war-torn era of the Three Kingdoms to a united phase, which would later give way to the divided northern and southern dynasties. Founded by Emperor Sima Yan, who reunited the three states of Wei, Shu, and Wu, the Western Jin held a vision for a peaceful empire. However, this dynasty ultimately left profound lessons about the consequences of power struggles and internal division. Upon ascending the throne, Sima Yan, the first emperor of Western Jin, set forth policies aimed at establishing social stability and economic growth. The court implemented land distribution reforms and reduced taxes, striving to restore agricultural production and provide relief to the people after decades of warfare. During this time, most people relied on agriculture for their livelihoods, with land distributed among households for cultivation, which in turn provided tax revenue for the court. Thanks to these policies, the Western Jin dynasty briefly experienced stability, and the people's lives somewhat improved. However, beneath the surface, seeds of conflict and power struggles were beginning to take root. Princes and nobles wielded considerable power, gradually clashing and vying for influence in the court. Their loyalty to the emperor waned over time, as the quest for power increasingly became their primary focus. Following Sima Yan's death, a fierce power struggle erupted between 8 princes, known in history as the War of the 8 Princes. Though they were family members, their greed turned them into bitter rivals, each willing to deploy personal armies to seize control and authority. This internal conflict not only weakened the dynasty, but also had devastating effects on society and the economy. These internal conflicts drained national resources, shattered public trust, and plunged the state into deeper chaos. Many people, especially farmers, were severely affected by the ongoing power struggles, enduring hardship and instability. Despite the court's efforts to maintain order, weak governance and internal turmoil led to increasing difficulties for the populace. In this context, the Western Jin social system was deeply stratified, with distinct classes of nobility, officials, farmers, merchants, and slaves. The aristocracy and royal family held significant status, yet they were also the source of division within the court and broader society. Officials, though responsible for governance and policy enforcement, were often corrupt, making life even harder for the people. Most citizens lived off the land, with agricultural holdings as their most valuable assets. While the court tried to encourage agricultural production, internal disputes and warfare eroded resources, leaving many areas desolate, with declining agricultural output and worsening living conditions. Burdened by heavy taxes and forced labor, the common people endured increasing hardship, while the nobility acted with impunity, deepening social divides. The economy of Western Jin depended heavily on agriculture, with rice and grains as staple crops. Fertile regions such as Henan, Hebei, and the Yangtze River Basin served as key production centers. Additionally, commerce gradually began to develop, especially trade between expansive plains areas. However, trading activities were primarily controlled by the nobility and officials, while the ongoing conflicts and unrest in the court disrupted key trade routes. Persistent warfare and internal power struggles stifled economic growth and stability, severing many trade links and plunging the state into stagnation. Despite its large army, the Western Jin lacked unity and cohesion. The War of the 8 Princes left the military fractured, with each prince establishing personal armies to engage in endless battles for power. With the army no longer a cohesive force for national defense, the court lost the ability to secure its borders. While the court was preoccupied with internal conflicts, northern tribes like the Zhongnu, Xinbei, and Chang took advantage of the situation, invading Chinese territory and pushing the country into peril. Weak military governance, a lack of coordination, and internal turmoil caused the Western Jin to gradually lose control, entangling the state in a cycle of invasions and civil strife. Education during the Western Jin was rooted mainly in Confucianism, emphasizing morality and propriety. However, Access to education was limited, primarily serving the nobility, officials, and those with means. Education in this period not only aimed to preserve the moral foundations of society, but also served the court and training officials. Alongside Confucianism, Daoism and Buddhism also profoundly influenced the cultural and spiritual life of the populace. Daoism, embraced by the aristocracy, was often associated with ceremonies seeking longevity and supernatural powers. Although Buddhism was newly introduced to China from India, it quickly spread and found acceptance among the people. Buddhist philosophies of reincarnation, compassion, and benevolence offered solace during a time of turmoil and helped people find tranquility. Religion and belief systems during the Western Jin were highly diverse, with the three main ideologies of Confucianism, Daoism, and Buddhism coexisting and developing together. Confucianism continued to enforce ethical and behavioral order within society, while Daoism, favored by the nobility, provided beliefs in longevity and spiritual salvation. Buddhism from India, although newly introduced, rapidly spread and brought significant transformations to the spiritual life of the people, offering them a source of hope and prayer amid turbulent times. After years of upheaval, the Western Jin Dynasty finally collapsed in 316 when the capital Luoyang fell to northern tribes. The fall of the Western Jin was not only a historical milestone, but also a significant lesson on the consequences of decentralization, power lust, and internal strife within the ruling family. Although short-lived, the Western Jin left a lasting impact, particularly in terms of culture and religion, laying the groundwork for the ensuing period of northern and southern dynasties. The story of the Western Jin is one of brevity yet profound emotion, where aspirations for unity, ambitions for power, and internal factionalism collided and led to far-reaching consequences. It was a painful period, but one in which the Chinese people gained valuable lessons in unity, responsibility, and resilience, qualities that would help them endure and continue to develop through later dynasties.